Can a person be incredibly strong both physically and spiritually? As it turns out, they can. The man from today's episode was destined to become a legend in the field of martial arts, and his legendary punches have yet to be repeated by anyone. It's worth finding out more about that. This is Infinity, and in this episode I'll tell you why no one can repeat these two Bruce Lee punches. This man was born on November 27, 1940 in San Francisco. It's funny that he was born in the hour and year of the dragon. His parents named him Li Xiaolong, which means Little Dragon. Subsequently, this dragon became world famous, and to this day, half a century later, as he's no more with us, he's still a legend. Bruce Lee was an actor, an outstanding martial artist, and simply an extraordinary personality. Everything he did had its own, truly special, unique character. Did you know that at first Bruce Lee was not seriously into martial arts and generally started with dancing? He began taking dancing lessons, namely cha-cha-cha, from the age of 13. And in 1958, at the age of 18, he won the Hong Kong Championship in this style of dancing. The same year, he also won the Hong Kong Junior Boxing Championship. Bruce Lee managed to get into fights a lot. So to be able to stand up for himself at the age of 16, he decided to learn Chinese martial art of Kung Fu. Bruce began to learn the style of Wing Chun from a master named Yip Man. This style is characterized by fast kicks and tight defense in a mobile position. Thanks to dancing, the guy had excellent coordination of movements, which helped him master martial arts in the shortest time possible. In addition to Kung Fu, Bruce tried himself in Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, and mastered the techniques of wielding various weapons. In 1959, Bruce went to distant America to San Francisco, from where he moved to Seattle. It was in the States that his new life began. It wasn't long before Bruce opened his own martial arts school, where he began teaching Jeet Kune Do. He developed this style of martial arts himself. By the way, Bruce Lee preferred to call Jeet Kune Do a method rather than a style.
Not bad, Kato.
To this day, so many years after the legend's death, there are those who criticize and doubt his fighting skills and training methods. They think he was just a good actor and nothing more. But as you know, so many men, so many minds. And Bruce Lee still left his mark on history. Have you ever heard of the 1-inch punch of Bruce Lee? From the name, it's clear that it's a punch that's thrown within 1 inch of the target. Convert inches into centimeters and you get 2.5 centimeters. This is the distance from which Bruce has repeatedly shown the punch to the public. The first 1-inch punch Bruce Lee demonstrated at the World Karate Championship in Long Beach in 1964. Despite the extremely small distance that Bruce's fist covered in a matter of milliseconds, the distance to which the very target flew away was really amazing. After all, the opponent was thrown a few meters away and fell back into the chair. Interestingly, even the acknowledged master of martial arts are still unable to repeat the Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch. So what is this peculiarity of this incredible 1-inch punch?
Ow! Ow! Okay! Okay! Let me try it on you for a second, okay?
Okay.
How do you like that? It seems to have no effect on you!
So when he punched, Bruce Lee turned his pelvis toward the target and threw his arm out sharply. Importantly, the 1-inch punch is delivered with the whole body, and the energy is released in the process. The position of the fist at the moment Bruce threw the 1-inch punch is always vertical. This kind of vertical punch is used only in close combat, 10 centimeters or less from the target. If you try to throw this punch at a greater distance, it'll simply be very weak. The pelvis and shoulders are engaged earlier than the arm. This allows you to punch quickly, strongly, and accurately. That is, the moment of impact occurs a fraction of a second earlier than the front leg, which moves with the impact, firmly stands on the ground. According to experts, this is what allowed Bruce Lee to turn his entire body into a single vector of force, which continued to move forward a moment after contact with the target. The strength of the punch depends on balance and choosing the right moment. If you punch too early or too late, you can simply lose power. Many theorists agree that such striking power is not only the result of training, but also an innate ability. Ed Roberts claims that one of Bruce Lee's secrets lies in the presence of a part of the brain more developed through training, which is responsible for coordination. However, this in no way diminishes the greatness of his 1-inch punch. Bruce Lee owed his more developed brain, as well as his muscles, to many years of hard training. Bruce Lee's speed. Anyone who has seen Bruce Lee's fight scenes knows that the man relied heavily on his incredible speed and ability to throw fast and powerful punches. I suggest you take a look at one of the behind-the-scenes footage of the Enter the Dragon movie. Bruce and his stuntman are practicing staging a fight scene. During the scene, the stuntman got distracted and it could have ended tragically, but he was lucky that Bruce Lee stopped his crushing blow in time. Bruce Lee could strike in 0.05 seconds from a distance of 1 meter. By comparison, that's only 1/20th of the amount of time it takes you to blink once. And in 0.08 seconds, Bruce could punch from 1.5 meters away. On normal film, 24 frames per second, you couldn't see that kind of impact. That was the case in the Green Hornet TV series, where Lee played Kato, a martial arts expert. Bruce stood almost motionless, but opponents magically fell around him. The producers didn't like that, and Bruce claimed that the essence of Kung Fu was efficiency, so he did exactly as he could, and then a compromise was proposed. For these scenes, slow motion was used, but when it came to practice, the filmmakers asked Bruce to hit slowly, otherwise they got only a very blurry image. They filmed the martial arts legend with the then advanced technique at 32 frames per second and then slowed it down. It's funny that usually videos of martial arts scenes were speeded up for dynamism, but here it was vice versa. The reaction and speed of the famous martial artist and movie actor were phenomenal. For example, he could replace a coin in another man's hand before the man had time to figure it out. Interestingly, everyone with whom Bruce Lee performed this trick was already holding another coin, unclenching their fist. And here are a couple of other surprising facts. Bruce Lee's reaction was so developed that he could catch a grain of rice with his chopsticks on the fly. What's more, it was part of his constant training. Besides, Bruce Lee's fingers were so strong that he could break a closed Coca-Cola can with them. It should be said that at the time, cans were made of a much thicker layer of aluminum than today. By the way, Bruce himself weighed 59 kilograms. Nevertheless, he could do push-ups with a 115-kilo man on his back. He could also do push-ups on just one finger, or he could pull himself up with just his little finger. The philosophy of Bruce Lee. The physical strength in this man combined with a metaphysical philosophy. Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. That was Bruce Lee's philosophy. And this is a quote from an essay Bruce Lee wrote as a student. Kung Fu is a specific art, not just physical exercise. It is the subtle art of expressing brain activity by performing certain techniques. The essence of Kung Fu is not a subject that can be studied like a science by obtaining facts and analyzing them. No, the understanding of this principle occurs spontaneously as an insight that arises in the brain. The essence of this Kung Fu principle is the Tao, the spontaneity of all phenomena occurring in the universe. Endless self-improvement. I don't think anyone has ever seen Bruce Lee not training. He didn't seem to stop at all. Those who knew him told the following story. Bruce was once on an airplane and had a notebook in one hand. He was punching it with his other hand, and so he alternated his hands. One of the passengers didn't like this and asked Lee to stop. Bruce's reaction was surprising. He, of course, apologized for the noise, but continued training, arguing that he should always be in shape. And here's what Dan Inosanto, a friend and disciple of Bruce, recounted. After grueling workouts, they'd go to Chinatown to have breakfast or lunch. Bruce Lee always took a punch bag with him. According to Dan, the punch bag was always lying either on Bruce's lap or on the seat next to him. Whenever he had to stop at traffic lights or was caught in traffic jam, Bruce Lee would work with the punch bag, keeping his hands in working order. Whether Bruce was watching TV or reading a book, he always found something to exercise his muscles. And yes, he read a lot, even though it might seem that a man who was totally dedicated to martial arts had absolutely no time for literature. In the morning, after jogging, flexibility exercises, and breakfast, he would always devote time to family or self-development, training his mind and soul. That's what comprehensive self-improvement means. That's all, guys. Who do you like more, Bruce Lee or Jackie Chan? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.